to usher in their Division I football, basketball, softball, everything is going to go Division I. It's going to be awesome. There was a big crowd there. Go Argos. And let's see, what else are we doing this week? Last night we did a candidate forum for the Gulf Breeze News. All of the candidates showed up that are running in Florida's first congressional district, except for Jimmy Petronis, because he is no-show Jimmy. And let's see. I am going to scroll down to the questions that you are asking. And thank you everybody for showing up to talk to me or to hear me talk about things. And if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat so that we can get to them. A couple of questions that we are covering tonight. Let's start from questions from the last time that we didn't get to. What's your position on giving unconditional funds to Israel, or should there be more conditions? I do not believe that we should have unconditional funds going to Israel. I don't believe that we should be paying for Israel to be in this war that we also should not be in. We are giving them a third of our budget for this war, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop immediately. So there's no unconditional funds that I would vote for or vote in favor of to increase this war, to elevate this war. What we need to do is get out of this war immediately. And whether Israel does that or not, that is up to them. But we should not let them influence how we proceed. We need to get out of this war as soon as possible. And Congress needs to take back their war powers, because this war has not been pushed through legally. So we need to make sure that we elect people that will vote to take their war powers back. Because as I explained to people last night, when you elect a representative, your representative should represent what you want, the message that you want them to take to Washington, not the other way around. You don't put it into their hands to make the best decision. What you do is tell them what you want, and that representative evaluates how their constituents feel. That is the message that they take. And overwhelmingly, people are against this war, not just because of the economic issues that come along with it, but people are against this war. We have lost 18 servicemen and women, and we need to get out of this war today. It is economically destroying our country. The next question that I'm going on to from Andres Rodriguez on Facebook. Will you see about lowering healthcare for all? Andres, I believe that everyone has the right to healthcare. I believe that healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. I believe that if our children do not have healthcare, we provide it for them. But that's also true of our entire society. Healthcare is too complicated. It needs to be simple. You need to know what you're going to pay when you leave the doctor's office or when you set up a procedure. And that is not the case. It is, and I equate this to the same thing that I equate taking your car into the shop for. My car is making a ding or making a ding sound. Look it over. You would not pay to have that car fixed or reevaluated until the doctor came to you, or excuse me, until until the mechanic comes to you and says, this is what the problem is, and this is how much it's going to cost. Why don't we do that with healthcare? And the easiest way to do that with healthcare is to have one pay scale that everything goes off of, so that you know when you're going in to have a cancer removed off of your forehead, what it's going to cost by the time you come out, so that there are no surprises. That's what healthcare should be, and that's what we all deserve. We also all deserve to have healthcare that does not make us go bankrupt. I talk about the cost of living all the time because it is the biggest thing that constituents want to talk about. When I ask people, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? It's the cost of living. And healthcare is, if not the highest bill you pay every month, it is up there. We need to get subsidies back. We need to fund Medicaid. Half the babies born every year are born to Medicaid. So if you are pro-life but anti-Medicaid, then you're on the wrong side of history. So let's see. I hope that answers your question. I believe that healthcare should be affordable, if not free, for everyone. I believe that the government should pay for healthcare for everyone, and it's doable. It's not out of the realm of possibility. The next question is from Kristen Brown Sanders. So last night, John Frankman keeps bringing up religion into politics. What is your stance? What will your stance be on that when you're elected to Congress? So I believe 100% in the separation of church and state. I believe that you are capable, eligible, free to practice whatever religion you choose to practice, and or not. And I believe that those decisions cannot be made up based on, we can't legislate based on our religious beliefs. That is why there is separation of church and state. And I am endorsed by an organization called Center for Free Thought Equality, excuse me, that says just that there is a separation of church and state, and that you do not base your legislative ideas on your personal religion or anybody else's personal religion or lack thereof. There are too many denominations, Christianity, and other religions that could come into making policy, and that skews how people think. So separation of church and state is where I am. Any other questions, put them in the chat and we'll see where it goes. Tracy Lynn on Facebook said, what are your thoughts on Medicaid waiver provider reimbursement rates and the 20+ year waiting list for people with disabilities and managed care program Florida is trying to push instead of home and community-based services? How do we fix this broken system for the people that deserve disability rights, disability population? So the first thing is that the Medicaid waivers or reimbursement rates are absolutely ridiculously low. And what the reimbursement rate is, or what that is that you pay out of pocket and then they reimburse you personally, or they reimburse the doctor's office. But the rates at which they reimburse are super low. We need to bring it up to market rate, and we need to make sure that our providers are getting taken care of and paid for the services that they render. Now, disability patients also deserve to have care at home. It is a responsibility of a healthcare provider to make sure that the patient thrives in a space where they can get well. And typically, your home is the place where you can do that. So, Tracy, talking to a lot of patients who have either lost their disability or who are having to reapply for their disability, I know that the rates are low. I know that the services that you are to receive are not in the spaces that you want, and I intend on working on that. I intend to make sure that people with disabilities are taken care of. And this is the reason why. When my husband was sick, we had to consider even getting divorced so that we could get services. We had to consider a lot of things to make sure that he had the services available to him to be able to live out his last days. My husband had ALS, and it's what I call a rich man's disease. You have to have the eye gaze, you have to have suction, you have to have a lot of equipment that people typically wouldn't need at home just to be able to survive. So I am in support of not only caregiver rights, but disability rights. Now, in Florida, I looked this up today because I couldn't believe that when I read this question, there's a 20-year plus waiting list for people with disabilities to even get care. I couldn't believe that. So I looked it up. And the fact of the matter is that it is a 14 to 20-year waiting period to get the services that you need. That's unacceptable because care delayed is care denied. And that is true of so many of our disability patients. And we also are struggling with the work requirements for Medicaid, and some of those could be disabilities. It needs to be reevaluated, but that is a state level decision that I will not forget, and I will talk to my counterparts and make sure that they work on it as well. We fix this broken system by working together. The federal and state legislation, as well as local, working together in unison to fix the problems of the people of this district. That is it's a rough question, and it also, it says waiting periods are like from 7 to 15 years, and it just is unbelievable to imagine that people have to wait for care that long. You can bypass the wait if you have special critical needs, is what they call it. So if you apply, or if you get on if you qualify for the special list of critical needs patients, then you move up. But still, that's a 7-year waiting period that needs to be reduced. I will look further into it and see how on the federal level we could work with the state government and fix these problems. Sean from Cape Coral asked on Facebook, I'm not in your district, but every congressperson has an effect on my city with their vote. Can you talk about water quality? And this is an issue that we face in both of our communities. I am not 100% sure about what's going on in Cape Coral and their water, but I know that it is an aquifer issue. It is a pollution issue. And in our district, our water pollution comes from our military bases and from the PFAS runoff. And so a lot of people have compared our water to that of Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan's issue is different in that it is mostly due to corrosive pipes. Ours is because we have runoff from our military bases and our airports into our aquifer that is causing PFAS. During the during the Biden administration, they said they made a law that you can only have like 0.2% PFAS in your water, and no more. And our PFAS is over. I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to tell you a number, and I know what it was years ago or a couple years ago, but it is way too high. And that is part of what we do with the DOJ, with the DOD, is that we have to work out, and using the Army Corps of Engineers to clean the spaces that the military has put to the side and said this is contaminated. It still goes into our aquifer. So we need a congressman or a congresswoman who is going to take the time to bring federal funds in here to fix our water problem. Because even if you don't drink the water, you're bathing in it every day. You're brushing your teeth with it. Those are things that are serious and problems that we need to confront. Now, I also believe that there is a question here about AI data centers. So, AI data centers rely on the water to cool the entire building because the AI data centers get very hot. So they use water to cool it, but they also use our electricity. What happens with the aquifer is that contaminants go down into the aquifer and spread across the panhandle. So say we had an AI data center in Santa Rosa County, it still would affect the entire panhandle. But luckily, Escambia County has put a ban on. There's been a moratorium in Santa Rosa County. There is a ban in Walton County, and Okaloosa, I don't think has moved on banning data centers yet or putting a moratorium on data centers, but that is the very least a moratorium in what our county and city governments should do, because nobody really knows how bad this could get. And another thing I don't understand about data centers is, why do you want to put a data center that it needs so much electricity and water to keep it cool? Why do you want to put a data center in the hottest place in the country, which is here in the Southeast? It makes no sense to me. And they also make a continual buzzing sound that is detrimental to people. Imagine, and this is for a 5-mile radius, not to mention how they suck off of our electricity and our electrical grid that is already in danger. We saw this past week how Iran went after several water systems and wastewater systems. That is a step away from our electrical grid, and it doesn't need to be stressed any more than that. So data centers are going to be somewhere, but it makes no sense to put data centers anywhere near people, anywhere near drinking water, anywhere where it's hot. That makes it just it makes no sense. But several of our politicians will do that. Several of our politicians will sell their soul and put them on government land, and say that they're bringing jobs to build these places. And you may have 200 people that need to build this building, but then those jobs go away, and you need 30 people that are going to maintain an AI data center. It makes no sense for local governments to invest in this. And I say we all stand up and say no. All right. Moving on. I think I'm probably. Oh, and one other question that he asked was, um, how will you work with Republicans, specifically Republican congressmen who represent my city, Greg Stubbe, and whoever wins Florida's 19? So this goes to the broader question of, how am I going to work with Republicans? Again, my father was a Republican, my mom was a Democrat. I've done this my entire life. I am a gun violence prevention activist. I have worked and compromised with people who did not agree with my stance, and yet solutions come out of those things. Building relationships and talking to people is kind of my jam, and I know that I can work with a Greg Stubbe on legislation that is worthwhile developing that relationship to cultivate. I don't worry of all the things that I worry about. Is being able to reach across the aisle and have a relationship with Republicans is the least on my list of things that I worry about. All right. I am going to murder this last name, but it's John Chiappini on Facebook. Are you going to reduce the government spending and the debt? Absolutely. Absolutely, John. We always have to worry about government spending, but I never hear Republicans talk about the debt unless a Democrat is in office. Our debt is up to $39 trillion, and we are facing it's dire. And let me tell you, I read this today. The fiscal problem is substantial. The Congressional Office of Budget, or the Congressional Budget Office, who evaluates these plans, projects that $1.9 trillion in federal deficit in 2026, with the debt at 101% of the GDP, gross national or gross domestic product, rising to 120% by 2036 if we don't do something about our debt and paying our debt down, paying our debt back. How do we do that? Y'all, we're putting out more money. It's just like your normal, like your bank account. If more money is going out than is coming in, you are in the negative, and that is what we are right now, to the tune of $39 trillion. And when you hear about people talk about leaving that debt to our children, that's exactly what's happening. But I have to remind people, they vote, the thing has been, you vote Republican because they're better with the economy. But I have to remind people, the last president to balance the budget was Bill Clinton. And how did Bill Clinton do it? He made people pay their fair share of taxes. We are living in a world of oligarchy where the rich keep getting richer and the middle class is stagnant or getting poorer. The big, beautiful bill that and was a tax for anybody that makes over $750,000 a year. Those people need to pay their taxes, their fair share of taxes, just like the rest of us do. I don't believe that a teacher making $45,000 a year should pay the same taxes as somebody that makes $6 million a year. I don't believe that is what Americans expect or what Americans need. We also need to increase the corporate tax rate. Corporate taxes have stayed the same since the 80s, since Ronald Reagan. And because of corporate donors, because of the people that have the money or donating to campaigns, our legislators continue to not make corporations pay their fair share. Do you know what the things that we could pay for if the ultra rich or even people that make over $750,000 a year paid their fair share? We could fund healthcare for everyone, and we wouldn't have to worry about affording medication. That's what we could do. But there are also other things that in our government that are happening lately that we also need to discuss. We need to talk about a $400 billion ballroom that is not helping anybody. It's not giving one person a sense of relief when they have cancer, or medication when they have schizophrenia, or water when they're thirsty, or food when they're hungry. It makes no sense. And also, there's an arch that we're spending, I think, $19 billion on, or something ridiculous, on an arch that is that's artificial, and it is a monument to a living president. We don't make monuments to living presidents. We wait till they die. And that's just how our archival system works. But we're spending a ton of money. And don't get me started about the reflecting pool and how that situation was botched. And we have $15 million sunk in to the reflecting pool where the bottom's coming up, and we're going to have it redone. And we're putting people in jail for not destroying it, for poor labor. We have to get those dollars back. Those dollars are being spent irrationally on things that we don't need to spend money on. But then there's also the war that is going to $1 billion a day. And we're losing our stockpile of weapons, particularly our Tomahawk missiles, that take 2 years to make and billions of dollars. that is the fleecing of what is going on with our military. We have to get out of this war, and we have to do it immediately. To not only not put our government into debt, but individual households. Oh, I know I'm getting started. Let's see. I did have oh, it's $100 million. The Trump arch is a $100 million price tag. Unbelievable. Okay, Shirley Angela Cliff on Facebook. Someone told me this is crazy. Someone told me a few days ago that she's not going to vote for you because of your past work on the school boards. She threw me because I didn't think you'd been on any local school boards, and I told her I'd have to ask. Have you? I have never been on the school board. I've never been involved in a school board. My parents were both public school educators, and I support public education. I believe we need to fund public education, but I have not been on a school board. Um, and so tell your friend to put a question in here next or in the next couple weeks, or to contact us. Come by our office on North 9th Avenue in Larua and meet me. And so maybe we can clear up the possibility of me being on a school board. I've never been on a school board. Okay, Bobo Fountain on TikTok said, what are you doing differently in your campaigns from previous runs? So this time around, because I live in Escambia County, I believe I spent more time in Escambia County last time just by the nature of that's where I live. This time around, I'm spending so much time in Okaloosa County and in farmland, trying to talk to farmers, trying to talk to our rural voters. I'm really diving into different parts of the community that wouldn't ordinarily come to me, and I'm doing it intentionally. You know, farmers aren't typically Democratic voters, but I want farmers to understand that I am here to make their lives better, because farming is how we get our food to our table. And if we give up on our farmers and don't do what we need to do for our farmers, then we have a food crisis more than we have right now. So I'm reaching out to answer your question specifically. I'm reaching out to communities that otherwise wouldn't fall into my normal purview. I am talking to Republicans. I never shy away from a Republican. If you are a Republican and I haven't met you and you would like to have a conversation, please email us at info@gay4congress.com if you have a question or if you would like to set up a meeting. I am all on board to talk to anybody and whoever lives in this district to make sure that your questions are answered. And look, we may not agree on anything. We may not agree on the basics, but at least we've had the conversation. Excuse me. Okay. From KP Associates on TikTok. Would you vote for age limits on government officials? Okay, so I'm going through some things like I am 54 years old, and I don't know if that's too old to run for office. But I have gotten some pushback from younger Democrats who may think I'm too old, and I don't get it. So I don't necessarily believe that we need to put age limits, because I think that's an issue that I wouldn't want to take on. But I believe that our people have to go out and vote appropriately for candidates who best represent them. And if a 78-year-old white dude does not represent your best interest, then don't vote for him. But I don't know that I would want to support age limits on government. But I do think that the easiest way to get younger people into office is to get younger people to vote. All right. Next question from Katie Mitchell on Facebook. Will you push the DOJ to release the complete Epstein files and prosecute the men who have trafficked women and girls? Absolutely. I believe this is a no-brainer. I believe that Florida dropped the ball on the Epstein case, put an ankle monitor on him, and sent him on his way to abuse more women. So many people were involved, and there are people in office who need to pay for the crimes that they've committed and for letting Epstein go, for letting the people go that have committed these crimes against children. These are children, these are 14 and 15-year-old girls that this happened to. It every word of the Epstein files needs to be released, but not only released, but acted on. The people that committed these crimes need to go to jail. They need to be outed, and they need to make sure that they can never offend again. You would do that with a murderer. You would do that with a rapist on the street. Because these people have money, it should not make any difference. The crimes they have committed, and they should be held accountable for. So yeah, and I have to say this out loud. My opponent, Jimmy Petronas, believes that we should just leave the Epstein files alone. He believes it's just disgusting to read, so filth, so we should just stay away from it. And I believe that's an abdication of his responsibility. And you have to wonder why. You have to wonder why someone like that with power to do something about it would say, just leave it alone. It doesn't add up. Y'all, it's already 7 o'clock. I really appreciate everybody here that spent a minute listening to me talk about things. And I don't know if you know how awkward this is to stare into a camera and talk with nobody on the other side of it, but it's awkward and unreal. I'd love to talk to people face to face. So if you have any questions or if you would like to meet in person, please watch our socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the socials, so that you can find out where we are every week. I often do coffee with the candidate. Show up and ask me your questions. And you don't necessarily have to agree with me to show up. I get my best ideas from talking to people directly, and that includes you. So either drop your comments here or get in touch with us. Come volunteer. On Thursday nights, we are doing a phone bank. It's we sit and paint and sip wine while we make phone calls, trying to rally the troops and get Democrats out to vote. Because this election is going to come down to voter turnout. It's going to come down to people not sitting at home and taking that Tuesday, a weird Tuesday in November, to come out and vote Gay Valimont for Congress so that we can all be represented. Y'all, I also need campaign contributions. My average donor donates $23 to me. That's how I like it. It means that there are people that get to make an investment in their in this campaign to help us buy signs, to help us buy T-shirts, to help us pay rent for an office, to help us get print material so that we can knock on doors and talk people into persuading people to vote for us that ordinarily would not take the time to do that. So we need your contributions and we need your time. If you can make phone calls, come into the office Thursday night at 6 o'clock. Or you can join, we'll put all these links in the chat. You can join our Zoom call and make calls from your home. And you can sit on Zoom with us and we'll talk. And we'll talk about the good conversations and the bad conversations that you've had, but we'll do it all together. On Saturdays, we host our canvassing events where we go and knock on doors and ask people for their vote. I am out knocking on doors every Saturday, and I would love for you to come out and join me, because we can't say that we need representation for everybody when everybody doesn't get involved. I need everybody's help to get this done, y'all. So thank you so much for spending your Wednesday night with me. I won't take up any more of your time, but I'll be back in 2 weeks to answer more questions. So keep your questions coming, and thanks.